Welcome to Energy Stew. This is Peter Roth, your host. And I'd like to ask you, have you ever heard of the Akashic Records? Well, probably you have, because they're quite famous. But what do they mean? What are they really? What aren't they? Um, Maybe there's more to know about them that we haven't heard before. And to help us understand that is a wonderful new friend who is a teacher of Akashic Records and very successful, has a big following. And I'm so excited to know Amy Robeson. Amy, welcome to Energy Stew.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Well, you know, I know how successful you are teaching people about the Akashic Records, how to not only learn about them, but to use them. And and I think we teach the same thing, but
For sure.
we call it differently. And I think um, you use it in a way that is very helpful and successful. So let's talk about it. Um, what is it? Let's just start out with your understanding of what we're talking about.
Yeah, so the Akashic Records is a field of infinite possibility. So every word, deed, thought from the moment your soul is incepted is recorded in the Akashic Field. And we can tap into the Akashic Field, also known as the Akashic Records, and receive love and guidance and support in any and all areas of our life. So we can use it for the past, the present, and the future. And I do also like saying similar to you, it's like the Google database of our soul. We can use it to have a better understanding of who we are and have a self-discovery so we can navigate our life in a different way that allows us to be on purpose and to heal what is meant to be healed so we can have the best life that we possibly want to have.
Yeah, and what I like about that is it's the way you put it is user friendly. And you have a lot of people who you've taught, who have learned from you how to tap into this with the directions of what to gain from it that you teach them.
Yeah,
And
I think that's important because you can hear about a tool, and some people will go, "Oh, that's for me," and not ask any more questions. And I'm like that sometimes, depending on what it is. If my heart's like a full yes, I'm gonna do it. But a lot of people are just not sure what that is, but they're curious, and so we have to look at it from like, what is the benefit of you learning this tool? Like, how can you actually utilize the tool itself? That's similar to past lives too, because I think that there's so often that someone like glamorizes a past life. I'm not about glamorizing a past life. I only want to know about a past life if it serves my highest good to know. And I want to know why I'm being shared that information because there's a reason why. I don't care if I was a queen or a king or a mother or a father or this or that in a past life. What I care about is, why is that information important for me to know at this moment in time, and how can I utilize that to evolve?
right. And I've been able to regress people through hypnosis back into past lifetimes.
That's
And
awesome.
very often, there's certainly unremarkable past lifetimes in terms of the history of the world, but they are extremely important to see the role that they played in that lifetime and the
Yeah.
lessons or the troubles of it that are mirrored in this lifetime.
For sure, because so often we can have something that is plaguing us, and it could be a behavior or a pattern, and we're not really sure where that came from. It could be, maybe you have issues with money, but your family had really good money patterns, but you have issues with it. It could come from ancestors, it could come from a previous lifetime as well. Similar things with like health or even relationships or different patterns
Well,
that you're just like, why am I doing this? Like, where did this come from?
why was I so intent in marrying my previous wife, which turned out to be not a good thing? But turns out that I've learned from hypnotic regression that she was my wife in a previous life that was always putting me down, and and we never kind of completed that. And so I needed to marry her in this lifetime so she could continue putting me down so I would end the marriage and finish our karma.
Yeah.
So it worked
But
out,
here's the thing. That's the interesting thing, Peter, too, is because so often someone will stay in a relationship because of societal norms, but sometimes we are only meant to be in that relationship for a certain period of time, and we're meant to break it
right?
because we're here to break the karmic pattern. We're here to pay the debt of whatever that is. So good for you for saying, I'm complete, this is complete, and then you guys both get to grow and you both get to move on, which is awesome.
Yeah, and so and also I needed that marriage as a bridge to my current marriage because my wife would have been too young at that at that time of my life. So I had to, that's why I just tread water until kind of tread water until I met her, and then we've been together for many decades. And so we need to honor so many of our current relationships in life for the good and the bad
Mhm.
that have a purpose, that our souls know what they're doing. We might not consciously know, but our souls go, oh yeah, this person you got to deal with karma with, so let's get involved here.
Yeah, it's like a gravitational pull.
Right.
And I find it all very fascinating. I really, really do. And I know like for my husband and I, we have had many, 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 many lifetimes together. Sometimes those lifetimes were great and sometimes they weren't.
Right.
And we're unpacking it through the things that we do now and how we are in relationship with one another.
Yeah, no, it's good to know these things. And so when you tap into what you're calling the Akashic field, I call it the universal computer. And I think having a label of the Akashic field is more um, comfortable for a lot of people because it makes it more workable. But when you say
Yeah.
tap into the universal computer, it's like, I don't know. I don't know if I know the software, and and you can get very confused by that. But then I think it operates the same way in that it holds every all the data of the past, and we can find out all the answers we need. Plus, on the other side, there are many levels of many dimensional levels, and so there are angelic levels and etc. And we have our spirit guides and all that. And you also teach that we can find help through the Akashic
Yes.
records that way by having support. And so you know, so it's really similar, um, but I see from the testimonials of your students and all of that that it's so much more comfortable to make friends with the Akashic field.
So like for me, the Akashic Records is a tool for self-discovery. It is a tool, it's a life tool. And when we look at it as a life tool, where it's not, I'm not just using it for past life regressions. I'm not just using it to do healings. I'm using it for everything from, like, hey, what's a good color for me to wear today that will make me feel energized? Or why am I having a hard time communicating my feelings right now with this person? Or for dinner tonight? Like, we can make it as big of a question or as fun and as small of a question as we want. Because the thing about it is, the masters, teachers, and loved ones, also known as the guardians of the records, they just want to love us. They want to support us. They want to assist us. And we have free will, and we get to decide when we show up and when we don't show up, and what we ask and what we don't ask. And if we're asking the right questions, because that's what it comes down to, is, are you asking the right questions? When we ask the right questions, the tool is powerful and it's limitless on how we can use it.
And I'm so glad you said that, because I've always taught that the smartest people in the world are the people with the best questions, because the answers are there.
Yeah. Because it's about being curious. Because if instead of complaining about something going wrong, the question is why is this always happening to me instead?
Right,
And that question is a lot different than complaining about how something is happening to you. Don't get me wrong, venting about something that's going on in your life can also create a breakthrough, can also assist you on unpacking it, but there has to be a question with it. And when you start asking those questions, you'll start actually seeing the answers to them, or feeling, or and tuning into them and receiving guidance back as well.
right. I love that. And I'm always um, very interested in people who I see are curious and want to know things that other people don't even think about.
Oh, for sure. I'm always impressed with for my Akashic Record program, it's called Sacred Awakening. And whenever we get a Sacred Awakening students, I always have at least one per round that will come up with questions never even thought of. Like, these are great questions. I love this. But that's the thing. It's like, if you just kind of sit with and start looking at things from all different angles, because that's what the guardians are here. They're here to offer alternative perspectives. Because so often we get tunnel vision where we're only looking down the tunnel and we forget all of the information that's 360 degrees around us, that can offer a different perspective in the situation or any given situation. And the guardians are here to support you in seeing things through a different light. And that's often what I call the lens of love. They're wanting to assist you in seeing things through the lens of love, because in the human experience, we're going to have challenging things. That's part of the human experience. Part of the human experience that we are gifted with is feeling. And so often we don't want to feel. So often we push the feelings away because there's societal norms that deem certain feelings bad or inappropriate, or you shouldn't be doing that particular thing or feeling that particular way because your parents could have said, I'll give you something to cry about when you want to cry. As an adult, it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel a certain way. What's not okay is if you allow those feelings to overtake your personality, or you don't allow those feelings to come to the surface to address, because when you don't address them, they get bogged down, they get they get stuck in your energy field, they get stuck in your body, and they cause you to behave and to act in a certain way until you finally address them.
Exactly. That's so well said. So let's talk about, because there's so many subject matters that I know from watching you in other videos that you're so good at. Spiritual bypassing is something that, and maybe it's just how it reflects in a lot of things in life, even about what we just talked about. Let's not ask questions. Let's just be nice.
Yeah, so you know in the spiritual community, and I think just in society in general, we put things into buckets or to categories. This is good, this is bad. And the problem with spiritual bypassing is when you believe that you are not able to be negative, or you are not able to say that is inappropriate, or that hurt my feelings, or whatever, because you're afraid you're going to miss out on something, or you're afraid that your vibe is not going to be high enough. Well, everything is frequency, and you can't stay positive all the time. It's not a part of the human conditioning. And I'm not saying to not be positive either. What I'm saying is if you are angry that someone just cut you off in traffic, it's okay to say, hey, that really annoyed me, and here's why. Or someone's hurting your feelings, but you don't want to address it. And I'll give you an example, like when COVID happened, when the world shut down, there were some people who are like, just think positive, everything's gonna be okay. Yes,
And wear your
um,
mask and take your injection and everything will be fine.
yeah, so the thing is, but some people are not okay. Some
Right.
people are drowning. Some people are they just got freedom taken away from them, and they feel like prisoners in their house, and they have all these things that they have to look at, and they're not okay. And so for me, it is perfectly okay to say, I'm upset, I'm angry, I'm irritated, I'm frustrated, I'm this, I'm that, whatever, and not be positive all the time, because life is all about extremes. Like, we have all ends of the spectrum on what we are experiencing, and we get blessed to feel our feelings. And when you give yourself permission to feel the feeling that you're feeling, unpack it, and then come up with a resolution. And this is the part where most people miss, where it's like, I'm feeling angry, so I'm just going to pretend I'm not angry. I'm going to shove it down, shove it down, shove it down, shove it down, shove it down. Well, that's going to come out, and it's either going to fester and then turn into resentment, or turn into rage, or turn into something completely much more bigger than what the original thing was that happened. And so when we have the opportunity to actually acknowledge our feelings and unpack them and address them and look at them, and not be afraid to look at them, because it is not to stay all day long. That doesn't mean that you're not a positive person. What that means is something's going to happen. You might see something in your newsfeed that upsets you. Great. All you have to do is say that that upset me. Why is that upsetting me? Okay, you address it, you move on from it then, instead of letting it fester. And so often what I have seen in the past for people that um are some of the nicest people I have ever met, usually end up having some of the biggest health issues, because they have let
Because they're
things
too
from
nice.
yes,
Right.
exactly. They have let things um just sit in their bodies, and they don't release them. And when you start to give yourself permission to look at childhood traumas, look at adult traumas, look at how you're reacting, because everything comes down to how we're reacting. And when we have the opportunity to look at, like, hey, why am I reacting that way? Because someone cutting you off in traffic usually isn't the person cutting you off in traffic. It has to do with something else that's going on in your life. Either you left too late, now you're upset with yourself that you're running late and they cut you off. You
Right.
got there a millisecond earlier, or there's something else going on with either your relationship with yourself, relationship with others, relationship with your romantic partner, or relationship with God or creation. So when we start to look at those things and go, hey, what do I actually have to dive deeper into? And am I willing to go into the darkness to find light? Because that's the part that most people are scared of doing, because they're scared of seeing what they might see something they don't want to see, or they might have to address an old wound that they really don't want to talk about. And I was one of those people where it's just like, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that topic. I don't want to talk about that subject. But until I gave myself permission to actually talk about those subjects and topics that were taboo for so long, was when I actually started feeling better and started feeling more free, and I wasn't held back by those feelings and those experiences as well.
Yeah, and that's wonderful to be that reflective and be able to think or be brave enough to challenge yourself to find out what's going on inside you that you haven't wanted to know about. So so the spiritual bypass is that we can use spirituality as a fake front.
Yes, that's one way of doing it. And it's trying to be positive all the time because you think that if you're negative in any way, shape, or form, you're not going to manifest the things that you want to manifest, which is simply just not true. Yes, you do want to have a positive outlook on life, but if something's not going right, you have every right to be upset about it and look at it, address it, and then redirect. And that's the part where it's no longer bypassing, it's no longer being negative, it's going, this is the problem, let me address it, and then I make space for the solution. And the solution sometimes is just simply reframing, or the solution is letting go of some of the old junk that's holding you at a particular frequency. And when you let that go, and the only way through is to go through it, when you actually go through it, on the other end is the reward, and what that reward is unique to that person in that moment, in that experience.
Right. And to be on a spiritual path is really important because there are vibes and there are vibes of harmony and wholeness that can be acquired, that can help us, but also to know that our shadows will always want to reveal themselves to help us become more whole.
Yes.
And so we have to really allow that and learn about them. I think part of teaching people about themselves and their higher selves and all that is also to know that they're in this life to work through shadows that
Yeah.
will persist until, well, maybe they'll always persist, but that we just become more friends with them. Because I'm an old timer and I still have a lot of the shadows at work, but I can, because I know them, I can identify them. I can say, okay, I see what's going on here. All right, I don't have
Yeah,
to.
I see you.
And thanks for, thanks Shadow for sharing.
Well, that's great awareness, because that's part of our evolution is having awareness. And if you don't have awareness, you're never seeing the shadow in the first place. And that's the cool part, is you have awareness, now you can address it, and to how you address it will be unique to you in that experience.
But
But
also knowing your own shadows helps you become more compassionate for everyone else's shadows.
yes, 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 yes. And it's just some people don't have the tools yet to know how to be in relationship with other people, or know, because everything comes down to relationships. And so, I was watching a show the other day, and it was a competition, and there was five people on a team, and one person just has this really rough exterior, and it's constantly yelling, constantly getting upset, and he's a grown man, right? So um he just doesn't have the right tools. And the beautiful thing is, everyone on his team kept showing him compassion and showing him compassion and showing him compassion. And I'm sure he's not used to having someone show him compassion when he yells. And so when you do show up for someone in a different way than what they're used to, they actually then have the opportunity to start to change as well, because they're that learned behavior, which I'm assuming, I don't know this person, right? Like, I'm just watching this show, but from my experience, when someone's a yeller, I grew up with yellers in my household. Like, he probably grew up in a household full of yellers. Like, I grew up in a household full of yellers, and it's taken me a lot of deep reflection, a lot of work on myself not to be a yeller, because that's how the environment I grew up in. And some patterns take more work and energy and effort to break than others. And it
Yeah.
is perfectly okay.
Yeah, there are so many layers to us. And so coming back to Akashic Records, Akashic Field, and knowing that everything in the past is recorded,
Mm-hmm.
being able to tap into this allows us to remember, or at least to be given memories back to us that we're asking for. And the idea, of course, as we come back to the question, is the thing, is to ask for guidance about certain things that we might have forgotten the history of or need more clarity, and that can be found in this Akashic field.
Yes. Absolutely. So, and it goes both ways. So it can go in one direction where it might share a trauma that you experienced along your soul's path that you forgot about, and that's why these patterns are showing up. And then it can also go the opposite way as well, where they can show you some good things that you forgot about that allow you to have more
That's
compassion,
good too. I like
allows you to
that.
soften your heart.
Yeah,
I know, like, for me, when my step grandmother passed away, I had a lot of anger towards her. And when she transitioned, I started seeing all of the amazing things that I forgot that she did for me as a child. And it completely allowed me to step into forgiveness in a different way, because she was reacting from a place of trauma. And that's why some of the things, the choices she's made, that caused me to
right. We
have
can understand, right, when
anger.
we understand other
Yeah.
people's shadows and history.
Yeah, so it's it's
Right.
it's it's a really beautiful way that the records can work, so they can go opposite ends of the spectrum and
So,
everywhere in between.
and we're getting to the end of the show. So, how can people find out more about you?
Yeah, so you can go to theamyrobeson.com. So that's TheAmyRobeson.com. And if you do theamyrobeson.com/free, there are 20 plus free healings in our free opt-in. It's called Sacred Gifts, that you can take advantage of. We also have on that page different shows and freebies that we're doing. I also have a podcast called Awakening with Amy Robeson, and I'm on all the social media channels as well.
That's great. So don't go, I'm telling the audience not to go to the other Amy Robeson, go to the Amy Robeson.
Yes,
Drama.
theamyrobeson.com. Make sure you put the in there, otherwise
Right.
you will find a realtor's website.
Oh, that's interesting. So thank you so much, Amy. I love talking with you, and it's been
Thanks for
so
having
fascinating
me.
to know you even. So
This
that's
this is so much fun. Thank you, Peter. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
great. And this is Peter Roth, your host of Energy Stew at prn.live. I can be reached at Peter at Heart River, HEART river.org. And I'd love to hear from you, and thanks so much for listening.